My friends, success is never an accident. Nobody stumbles into greatness by mistake. It takes relentless discipline and consistent action. Just like a seed does not grow into a tree overnight, your dreams will not transform into reality without patience, persistence, and daily effort. The question is, are you ready to pay the price of discipline today so you can enjoy the reward of freedom tomorrow? Discipline is not a punishment, it is a form of freedom. Most people misunderstand it as restriction, as if it takes away their enjoyment, but in reality, discipline is what allows you to enjoy life at its best. Think about it. When a musician practices for hours every day, that discipline gives them the freedom to stand on stage and play effortlessly. When an athlete wakes up before sunrise, trains when others are asleep, eats clean when others are careless, that discipline is what gives them the freedom to perform at their peak. Without discipline, we are chained to our impulses, eating what we shouldn't, saying what we shouldn't, doing what harms us in the long run. We become slaves to comfort and desire, but with discipline, we break those chains and take control. It is like holding the steering wheel of your own life firmly in your hands, instead of letting the winds of temptation drive you wherever they please. Freedom does not come by doing whatever you feel like in the moment. Freedom comes by training your mind and body to obey what is right. When you are disciplined with your time, you gain the freedom to achieve more. When you are disciplined with your money, you gain the freedom to build wealth. When you are disciplined with your health, you gain the freedom to live longer and stronger. And when you are disciplined with your habits, you gain the freedom to create a future of your choice instead of being a victim of your laziness. Many people say they want freedom, but what they really want is license to live without rules. That kind of freedom is not real. It leads to chaos, regret, and suffering. The real freedom, the deep peace, the true strength comes from discipline. Because when you live a disciplined life, you are not controlled by cravings, distractions, or moods. You are guided by purpose. That is the kind of freedom every successful person has mastered. And that is the kind of freedom you must embrace if you truly want to transform your life. Action is the difference between those who dream and those who achieve. Everyone has ideas, everyone has desires, everyone imagines a better version of their life, but only a few are willing to take the steps that turn imagination into reality. You can sit with a notebook full of plans. You can have vision boards decorated with pictures of your goals. You can even speak passionately about the life you want to live. But unless you take action, it all remains a fantasy. The world does not reward intention, it rewards execution. A farmer may own the best seeds, the most fertile land, and the clearest vision of a harvest, but if he does not bend his back to sow the seeds, water the soil, and tend to the field, there will never be a crop. Dreams are like those seeds, potential locked inside, waiting for action to bring them to life. The tragedy for many people is not that they lack dreams, but that they lack discipline to act. They wait for the right moment, they wait to feel ready, they wait for someone to push them, but waiting becomes a silent killer of their destiny. The truth is, there is no perfect moment, there is only now. Every small action you take today, no matter how ordinary it seems, compounds into extraordinary results. Think about the person who learns a new skill. If they study and practice just 1 hour every day, in a year they will have over 300 hours of mastery. In 5 years, they become an expert, and in 10 years, they are unstoppable. Yet the same person, if they only talk about learning but never act, will find themselves 10 years older, but standing in the exact same place. Action is also what separates confidence from doubt. Every time you take a step, you prove to yourself that progress is possible. Every action, no matter how small, builds momentum. And momentum is powerful. It breaks fear, it silences excuses, and it gives you clarity that no amount of overthinking can provide. While others sit and wonder if they will succeed, the person who acts already has results. That is why action is always greater than intention. Your intentions may impress people for a while, but your actions are what inspire, influence, and transform. Life respects effort, not wishes. Faith without works is empty, and dreams without action are just illusions. If you want to see change, you must move your feet, use your hands, and act with relentless determination. Because when you act, you bring energy to your vision, and that energy begins to shape the life you desire. Consistency is the secret ingredient that transforms small efforts into great achievements. Anyone can be disciplined for a day, anyone can take action for a week, but true transformation belongs to the one who repeats the right actions day after day, week after week, year after year. Think about water dripping on a rock. One drop seems insignificant. 10 drops still look like nothing, but over years of steady dripping, even the hardest rock begins to change shape. That is the power of consistency. It is slow, it is quiet, but it is unstoppable. Too many people give up because they do not see instant results. They go to the gym for 2 weeks, they eat healthy for 1 month. They work hard on their business for 3 months, and when the big change doesn't come immediately, they quit. What they don't realize is that consistency was building strength within them, preparing them for the breakthrough that would come if only they stayed the course. When you look at successful people in any field, whether it is a writer, an athlete, a leader, or an entrepreneur, you will notice one common thread: consistency. They were not always the most talented, they were not always the smartest, but they showed up every single day. They practiced when nobody was watching, they worked when others were resting, they kept going when it was boring, tiring, or unexciting. And because they stayed consistent, they built habits that carried them through seasons of doubt and discouragement. Consistency turns discipline into a lifestyle and action into momentum. The person who practices 1 hour daily will always surpass the person who works hard for 10 hours once a month and then disappears. Success is not built in occasional bursts of effort. It is built in the daily grind of showing up and doing what must be done. Consistency also creates trust, not just trust with others, but trust with yourself. When you keep the promises you make to yourself every day, even in small things, you begin to build inner confidence. You start to believe that you are capable, reliable, and strong. And that self-belief is what gives you the courage to attempt bigger challenges. On the other hand, when you constantly start and stop, when you only work in phases of motivation and then drop off, you create a pattern of self-doubt. You begin to lose faith in your own word, and that weakens your spirit. That is why consistency is not just about results, it is about identity. You become the kind of person who is dependable, who can be counted on, who doesn't just talk but delivers. The beauty of consistency is that the results sneak up on you. One day, you are struggling, feeling like nothing is happening. But then suddenly, you notice your body is stronger, your skills are sharper, your finances are healthier, your relationships are deeper. Consistency creates transformation silently, and by the time you realize it, you have already become a completely different person. It is not the big things you do once in a while that change your life. It is the small things you do every day, without fail, that build the future you desire. Comfort is one of the greatest enemies of growth. It whispers in your ear, "Stay where you are. It's safe here. It's easy here. You don't need to push yourself." And at first, comfort feels like a blessing. It feels warm, secure, and pleasant. But over time, comfort becomes a prison. It keeps you locked in the same routines, the same habits, the same limitations, while life outside of your comfort zone is filled with opportunities waiting to be discovered. Every person who has achieved greatness had to step out of what felt safe and familiar. They had to endure discomfort, risk, and uncertainty because comfort never produces champions. If you always choose what feels easy, life will become hard. But if you choose what is hard, life eventually becomes easy. Think of a seed again. As long as it stays in the packet, it is comfortable, untouched, and secure. But unless it is pushed into the dirt, buried under the soil, and broken open by pressure, it will never grow into a tree. The same principle applies to you. If you stay where it feels easy, you will remain small. But if you step into challenges, you will grow into the fullest version of yourself. Growth is always uncomfortable because it stretches you. It forces you to face your fears, to learn new skills, to deal with failure, to push through rejection. And yet, these are the exact experiences that make you stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The problem is that we are wired to avoid pain and seek pleasure. Our mind tells us to choose rest over effort, excuses over execution, safety over risk. But the truth is, every time you surrender to comfort, you sacrifice your future. You may feel good for a moment, but you rob yourself of long-term growth. Every successful person you admire chose discomfort again and again. The athlete endures the pain of training to enjoy the victory on the field. The entrepreneur embraces the risk of failure to create a business that thrives. The student stays awake through long nights of study to enjoy the success of a career. Comfort never gave them these rewards. Discomfort did. Stepping out of your comfort zone is not just about external success. It is also about internal transformation. When you challenge yourself, you discover abilities you never knew you had. You begin to trust yourself more deeply. You learn to face uncertainty with courage. And you develop a mental toughness that comfort could never provide. Discomfort is not your enemy, it is your teacher. It teaches you patience, humility, persistence, and faith. The struggles you go through while leaving your comfort zone are the very experiences that prepare you for the destiny you are meant to live. So the choice is clear. You can remain in the comfort of what is familiar and live with regret, or you can embrace the discomfort of growth and live with fulfillment. Comfort may feel safe, but it is an illusion. Nothing grows in comfort. Everything that truly matters, your purpose, your strength, your greatness, waits for you just beyond the line of comfort. The moment you step across it, your life begins to transform in ways you never imagined. Self control is the highest form of power a human being can possess. We often think that power means controlling others, leading big organizations, or having influence over large crowds. But the truth is, if you cannot control yourself, you are not truly powerful. A person who has no mastery over their own thoughts, emotions, and habits becomes a slave to their impulses. They eat what they shouldn't, speak when they should stay silent, act in anger when patience was needed, and waste precious time on distractions instead of pursuing their purpose. This lack of self control robs people of their potential more than external enemies ever could. Your greatest battle in life is not with others, it is with yourself. If you can win over your own weaknesses, you can overcome anything outside of you. Think about a river. When it overflows without boundaries, it destroys everything in its path. But when it is controlled and channeled, that same water generates power, sustains life, and becomes a blessing. In the same way, your energy, your desires, and your emotions can either be destructive when uncontrolled or incredibly powerful when directed with discipline. Self-control is not about suppressing your desires forever. It is about mastering them so that they serve you rather than enslave you. For example, controlling your anger doesn't mean you never feel anger. It means you know when to express it in a constructive way and when to remain calm. Controlling your cravings doesn't mean you never enjoy food. It means you choose wisely so your health is protected. Controlling your habits doesn't mean you never relax. It means you decide when to rest and when to work instead of being pulled around by laziness. History is filled with examples of people who had great talent, intelligence, and opportunity, but who lost everything because they lacked self-control. And it is also filled with stories of people who had little to begin with, but through discipline and control of themselves, they rose to greatness. Your ability to govern yourself determines how far you will go in life. Without self-control, discipline cannot last. Without self-control, consistency is impossible. Without self-control, action is wasted because you keep undoing your own progress. Self-control is the glue that holds all the other virtues together. It is important to understand that self-control does not appear overnight. It is built like a muscle, strengthened by daily practice and small victories. Every time you resist a temptation, you grow stronger. Every time you choose patience instead of anger, focus instead of distraction, effort instead of excuses, you are training yourself to be the master of your own life. Slowly, those small acts of self-control accumulate until you become a person who is unshakable, calm, and determined in any situation. That is true power, to be steady when the world around you is unstable, to be calm when everyone else is panicking, to keep moving forward when others have given up. The reward of self-control is freedom. Freedom from addictions, freedom from regret, freedom from the chaos of being ruled by emotions. It gives you dignity, strength, and clarity. It allows you to choose your response instead of being a victim of your reactions. And in the end, this mastery over yourself is what leads to mastery over your destiny. Because if you can control the small daily choices of your life, There is nothing too big that you cannot accomplish. Motivation is beautiful, but it is fleeting. It comes like a wave. It rises high, fills you with energy, and then eventually fades away. If you build your entire life only on moments of motivation, you will always find yourself starting strong but never finishing. This is why so many people feel inspired after a seminar, a book, or a powerful speech. But a week later, they are back to the same habits, the same routines, the same excuses. Motivation is like a spark. It can ignite the fire, but it cannot keep the fire burning. What keeps the fire alive is discipline. Discipline is what carries you forward when the excitement is gone, when the mood is not right, when the feelings are not supportive. Discipline is the quiet force that says, I will do it, not because I feel like it, but because it needs to be done. If you look at the lives of the most successful individuals, you will notice that they are not always motivated, but they are always disciplined. The athlete does not wake up every day excited to train in the cold, but discipline gets them out of bed. The student does not feel motivated every night to stay awake and study, while others sleep, but discipline keeps them at the desk. The entrepreneur does not feel thrilled to face rejection after rejection, but discipline pushes them to make the next call, write the next email, take the next risk. Discipline does not depend on how you feel, it depends on who you have decided to become. Motivation asks, do I feel like doing this? Discipline declares, it doesn't matter how I feel, I will do it anyway. This is the difference between temporary success and lasting transformation. Feelings are unpredictable. They go up and down like the weather. If you allow your destiny to be controlled by your moods, you will always be unstable. But discipline is stable. Discipline is consistent. Discipline builds habits, and habits build character, and character builds destiny. The most important breakthroughs in life often come in moments when you least feel like trying, but you push yourself anyway. It is in those moments that you cross the line from average to extraordinary. There will be days when your energy is low, when your mind is heavy, when every part of you wants to quit. Those are the days that test your commitment. Discipline is what whispers to you in that moment, keep going, because the reward is on the other side of this struggle. And if you keep moving, you realize that your feelings eventually catch up with your actions. Many times, motivation follows discipline, not the other way around. You start the work even when you don't feel like it, and once you are in motion, the energy begins to rise again. This is why discipline is far more reliable than motivation. Motivation gives you the start, but discipline gives you the finish. Motivation pushes you one step, but discipline walks the entire journey. Motivation inspires the dream, but discipline builds the reality. If you can train yourself to act regardless of mood, to stay faithful to your routines, even when it is boring, to continue walking, even when the excitement has died, then you will achieve what others only talk about. Because in the end, it is not those who are always motivated who succeed, but those who are always disciplined. Sacrifice is the seed of strength, and without it, no great achievement is possible. Everything valuable in life carries a price, and that price is often giving up something today so you can build a better tomorrow. Yet many people want the reward without the struggle, the success without the effort. the harvest without the planting. But life does not work that way. If you want lasting results, you must be willing to let go of comfort, distractions, and even pleasures in the short term so that you can secure something far greater in the long run. Sacrifice is not about loss, it is about investment. It is about giving up something lesser for something greater. When a student sacrifices late nights of entertainment for study, they are not losing fun, they are gaining a future. When an athlete sacrifices junk food and lazy mornings, they are not losing comfort, they are gaining health, stamina, and victory. When a parent sacrifices personal desires to raise their children, they are not losing freedom, they are gaining love, legacy, and meaning. Sacrifice, therefore, is not punishment, it is a privilege. It is proof that you value your future enough to pay the price today. The truth is, you cannot have it all at once. Every choice you make is a trade-off. If you choose ease now, you will face hardship later. If you choose discipline now, you will experience freedom later. Sacrifice creates the space for strength to grow because it forces you to resist what is easy and pursue what is meaningful. It teaches you patience because results don't arrive immediately. It builds endurance because the road to greatness is long and tiring. And it develops character because it demands that you stay true to your vision even when others around you don't understand. People may laugh at your sacrifices. They may wonder why you are working so hard, why you don't waste time like they do, why you don't indulge the way they do. But while they are busy chasing temporary pleasures, you are building a future that will last. And when the rewards arrive, those same people will admire the results that came from your sacrifices. The beauty of sacrifice is that it multiplies. Every small sacrifice compounds into something far bigger than you imagined. The money you save instead of wasting becomes the foundation of wealth. The hours you invest in learning instead of scrolling aimlessly become the foundation of mastery. The effort you put into exercising instead of sleeping in becomes the foundation of health and vitality. At first, these sacrifices may feel painful. They may feel like you are missing out. But with time, you realize that you were never losing, you were planting. And every seed of sacrifice you plant eventually grows into a tree of strength, success, and satisfaction. The question you must ask yourself is simple. Are you willing to give up what is easy today for what is extraordinary tomorrow? Because in life, you always pay a price. Either you pay the price of discipline and sacrifice now, or you pay the price of regret later. Regret is far more expensive, far more painful, and far more permanent. Sacrifice may sting in the moment, but its reward lasts a lifetime. And when you learn to embrace sacrifice not as a burden, but as a path to strength, you will discover a freedom and fulfillment that comfort can never provide. Discipline shapes identity in ways that nothing else can. Every single choice you make is not just about completing a task. It is casting a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. When you wake up early and keep a promise to yourself, you are shaping the identity of someone who is reliable and committed. When you resist distractions and focus on what matters, you are shaping the identity of someone who values growth over comfort. When you control your emotions and respond with patience instead of anger, you are shaping the identity of someone who is strong, wise, and balanced. These repeated acts of discipline become bricks that slowly build the house of your character. And eventually, your character becomes your destiny. Too often, people try to change their lives by focusing only on results. They say, I want to lose weight, I want to earn more money, I want to be more confident. But focusing only on outcomes keeps them stuck in a cycle of starting and quitting. The real change happens when you shift your focus to identity. Instead of saying, I want to lose weight, you start saying, I am a healthy person, so I eat and move like one. Instead of saying, I want to earn more, you declare, I am a disciplined, hard-working person, so I manage my time and resources wisely. When you focus on identity, your actions begin to align naturally because you act in harmony with who you believe you are. Discipline is the force that allows you to repeatedly align your actions with the identity you are choosing to build. Think of a sculptor standing before a block of stone. Each strike of the hammer removes what is unnecessary, shaping the figure hidden inside. At first, the strikes look small and the progress is invisible, but over time, a masterpiece emerges. In the same way, each disciplined act you take may feel small and insignificant. Studying an hour daily, saving a little money, practicing a skill, controlling your tongue. But these small acts are carving away laziness, fear, and weakness, revealing the masterpiece of who you are meant to be. Identity is not built overnight. It is formed through thousands of disciplined choices that accumulate and define you. And once your identity is shaped by discipline, it becomes your natural way of being. You no longer need to force yourself to act. You act because it is who you are. A disciplined person does not wake up and struggle with the decision of whether or not to work hard. They work hard because it has become their nature. A disciplined person does not debate endlessly whether to eat healthy or waste time. They live in alignment with the standards they have set. This is the real power of discipline. It transforms effort into habit and habit into identity. And once something becomes your identity, it becomes effortless. The greatest gift discipline gives you is not just success, but self-respect. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to see yourself as capable, dependable, and worthy of the life you are building. And when your identity is shaped by discipline, nothing external can easily shake you, because who you are is stronger than the circumstances around you. In the end, it is not what you occasionally do that defines you, but what you consistently do. And what you consistently do is who you are. Discipline shapes that identity, and that identity shapes your destiny. Excuses are the silent killers of potential. They sound harmless, they feel comforting, but they are poison disguised as protection. Every time you say, I can't, it's too hard, it's not the right time, or I'll do it tomorrow, you are giving yourself permission to stay small. Excuses may shield you from temporary discomfort, but they also lock you in a life of mediocrity. The truth is, no great destiny has ever been built on excuses. Excuses are simply lies we tell ourselves to avoid the pain of growth. They may convince others for a while, but deep down, you know the truth. You are capable of more, but you are choosing less. Think of the countless opportunities lost because of excuses. How many dreams have died because someone said, I don't have enough money, instead of finding creative ways to start small? How many talents have been buried because someone said, I don't have time, instead of managing the hours they waste? How many relationships have suffered because someone said, that's just how I am, instead of making the effort to change? Excuses steal more from people than failure ever will, because at least failure teaches you lessons. Excuses teach you nothing, they only keep you stagnant. The most dangerous thing about excuses is how convincing they sound. They dress themselves in logic and reason, but underneath, they are simply fear in disguise. Fear of hard work, fear of rejection, fear of being uncomfortable, fear of not being good enough. And as long as you listen to excuses, fear becomes your master. But the moment you silence excuses and say, I will find a way, something inside you awakens. The human spirit was never designed for excuses. It was designed for resilience, creativity, and determination. History remembers the people who refused to live by excuses. They didn't have perfect conditions. Many of them started poor, uneducated, disadvantaged, or rejected. But they refused to let their circumstances become their prison. They decided that their excuses would not define them, their actions would. And because of that, they rose to levels that others only dream of. The difference was not talent or luck. It was their refusal to let excuses have the final word. When you choose to replace excuses with responsibility, you reclaim your power. Instead of saying, I can't, you ask, how can I? Instead of saying, it's not possible, you declare, I will make it possible. Instead of saying, it's too hard, you remind yourself, the harder it is, the stronger I will become. Responsibility empowers you, excuses disempower you. Responsibility puts the control back in your hands, excuses hand it over to circumstances. The painful truth is that every excuse you make today becomes a regret tomorrow, and regrets weigh heavier than sacrifices. Excuses may save you effort now, but they cost you peace later. The only way to break free is to be brutally honest with yourself. Admit when you are making excuses. Catch yourself when you are hiding behind words. And then take action in spite of them. Because once you stop feeding excuses, your growth becomes unstoppable. In the end, you must choose. Either live with the pain of discipline or live with the pain of regret. Excuses offer comfort, but discipline offers greatness. And greatness is never born from excuses. It is born from courage, persistence, and relentless action. Relentless action is the force that turns potential into progress, and progress into unstoppable growth. It is not about doing something once in a while when you feel inspired, but about moving forward every single day, no matter how small the step. Action builds momentum, and momentum is what carries you through obstacles that once looked impossible. When you act consistently and without hesitation, life begins to open doors that you never imagined were there. Opportunities reveal themselves to those who are already in motion, not to those who sit still waiting for the perfect chance. A ship that stays in the harbor may look safe, but it will never reach new lands. It is the ship that sails, facing storms and waves, that eventually discovers new horizons. In the same way, relentless action takes you places that comfort and hesitation never will. Many people dream of growth, but they wait for the right mood, the right resources, or the right support. They hesitate, they delay, they tell themselves, one day I'll start. But one day never comes. The truth is, clarity comes from action, not from waiting. When you move, even if you are uncertain, you learn, you adjust, you grow. Each step forward, whether successful or not, gives you information that shapes the next step. That is why relentless action is more powerful than endless planning. Plans are important, but without action, they are nothing more than paper. A small step executed is more valuable than the grandest plan left undone. Relentless action is also what separates ordinary effort from extraordinary success. Anyone can act once, anyone can try for a week, but those who achieve great transformations are those who refuse to stop. They act through fatigue, through doubt, through rejection, through failure. And because they keep moving, life cannot ignore them. Failure cannot hold them down because they turn it into feedback. Challenges cannot stop them because they see them as training. Obstacles cannot intimidate them because they know that every wall has a door if you keep looking for it. The person who acts relentlessly is like water flowing down a mountain. It may be blocked, but it finds another path. It may be slowed, but it cannot be stopped. Eventually, it carves valleys and shapes landscapes. That is the power of persistence in action. What relentless action truly builds is not just results but resilience. Every time you push yourself to act despite resistance, you toughen your spirit. You start to see yourself as unstoppable, and that belief becomes fuel for even greater action. You begin to realize that setbacks are temporary, and that delays are not denials, and that effort compounds over time into something far greater than you could have imagined. Relentless action turns you into a force of nature, consistent, unshakable, and inevitable. In the end, dreams don't come true just because you wish for them, or even because you discipline yourself once in a while. They come true because you act again and again and again, relentlessly, until your life bends to the strength of your persistence. Action builds momentum, momentum creates transformation, and transformation makes you unstoppable. And when you live with relentless discipline and relentless action, there is nothing in this world that can keep you from becoming the person you were always meant to be.